We're now with the Planning Commission on day 4 of the budget hearings. Rick, if you could introduce yourself and your colleagues and then make a statement about your year and then where things are at planning and talk a little bit about your budget proposals.
Okay. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We have Jim McLean, who's chairman of the Planning Commission, and Ann Hammond, who's assistant director. We also have Doug Sloan, who's incoming assistant director, and Craig Owensby, who's our PIO, and Jeffrey Leach, who's our financial officer. And we be glad to answer any questions that you have. This year has been a very active year. This time last year, we were just finishing up the redistricting and getting ready to enter into that exciting process, the follow-up process of the election and all that. But
you guys did a great job on that, too, by the way, quickly and
I think
general satisfaction.
I think so. I was pleased with it, and I think the community was, because it was such an open process. I think they felt that. Well, we've had I think a successful year. We've done a number of flood monitoring, predictive, and assistance systems that you're aware of that are coming forward. Updated the Major and Collector Street Plan. We completed the North Nashville and Bellevue community plans. I think one thing that was a major text amendment that we were able to get through was taking the adaptive residential development. Most of our corridors, residential corridors with the old traditional zoning, didn't allow residential on them. And a few years ago, the council did an experiment of using the UZO to allow it by right residential, and that was expanded to all of the USD. So we'll be able to get those intense mixed-use corridors now as a matter of right, instead of having developers have to go through rezoning process. We also have instituted a number of public services. We have a development tracker website in the process of making it a mobile site where any person 24/7 can go to the site and from the time an application is filed and actually get information on that application. They can get details about the application. They can get staff reviews. They can get minutes if we're that far along, but they can get that information 24/7. And the Commission also instituted a number of early notice procedures. Applicants are required to submit an early postcard within the first week or so of when an application is filed, so the community is aware of that. We anticipate a number of things next year. I want to talk a little bit about the general plan, but before I do, I think there's a couple of other things that are important. As you're aware, the council's direction on the Fairgrounds Master Plan is now getting ready to get kicked off, and we'll be starting, Ann's heading that up. And I think she's going to start an early notice to all those people that have been involved so that they know that it's being kicked off and stuff like that.
And how long will that take?
About 8 months, we think.
Okay.
Outside.
We're continuing to work with the Land Trust on implementation of the open space plan. We have another couple of things on our agenda depending on how things go. The East-West Connector Study, the Airport Master Plan are clearly there. We're continuing to look at the USD line and any potential areas that might warrant consideration for expansion of USD. We will be participating in the SOBRO plan that was announced in terms of with the Convention Center Authority and working with them. And we'll be doing from our GIS section a number of enhancements, including mobile apps on property map information, development tracker, a new property map viewer. And we'll be working with the MPO on the studies that they're doing as they're moving forward to update their regional plan. With regard to the submitted budget, and I want to kind of, we basically reduced a half-time person. One of our designers, we had a vacancy that we reclassified down, so we were able to deal with some savings that way, and then made some cuts in equipment and supplies to come into conformance with the requirements. However, we do need to look at the budget in light of the changes that have happened since we submitted that. In particular, we also need to take it, kind of revisit our capital request for the general plan. We need to downsize that, as we've discussed. This is an opportunity to actually implement the general plan at less cost than we have, but we need to kind of restructure that and calculate amend that down to the appropriate amount of money and reallocate that for our work. And then look and make sure that we've got everything in terms of the shifts that are covered, Doug Sloan and the other shifts that we've got there. We'll need to work with Rich and your office on making sure that we adjust the submission, I guess, to cover those things.
Could you, I guess this would be a good time to explain to the public what the Sloan shift is. And
Okay.
all that.
Basically, the National General Plan was originally established in 1992. It sets the framework for looking at and coordinating the big picture issues for Metro. We've got a lot of components in that. Land use is one, zoning is one, but it also deals with recreation and parks and wellness and sustainability and all those elements. We've had a lot of plans that are done, and what we want to make sure of is that we're going to go through with a very extensive process to engage the public in validating the concerns the public has and identifying their vision and putting that together and making sure that all our plans are coordinated. We don't anticipate actually reinventing the wheel. We do anticipate with an awful lot of community discussion over the next couple of years in terms of defining that vision and those goals. What we had originally proposed was because of the staff situation that we have and constraints that we have, was actually hiring a consultant, which we estimated this was probably a 3-year process and would cost as much as $2.5 million or more to do that. In discussing that, I think between your office and the Planning Commission, it was felt like that if we had an opportunity to free up some of my time, that I could take leadership of that, and I appreciate the support that you and the chairman have taken and leadership that you've taken in terms of doing that. The difficult part of freeing up my time, of course, is providing some support for the day-to-day activities that go on, and I do appreciate your willingness to have Doug Sloan come over and actually function in that role, handling day-to-day activities. That'll free up my time, probably as much 80% of my time, 75 or 80% of my time to handle the general plan. And we have already begun discussing it with departments. This will not be a general plan. It'll be done from the planning department. This is going to be a general plan that's a integrated community-wide general plan that comes from all the departments. We've already had discussion with Jen Cole about incorporating arts and culture from their perspective, them doing that component of the plan. We've talked to Dr. Paul and the Civic Design Center. The work they're doing with the Civic Design Center on the wellness component will be the element of the general plan that comes in there. We've already had discussions with Jeannie Hastings and the Land Trust on the work they did with the open space plan in terms of actually integrating that in to this document. So, and we'll continue to basically take the expertise and resources that we have in this community. I've got a meeting next week with the Chamber about utilizing the information they have on Partnership 2020. We don't want, this needs to be integrated, and we need to make sure that we're kind of working, all working in the same direction, and our values and goals are working in
And what is
concert.
a general plan? I mean, how's that different from what you do and these different plans you work on constantly?
The general plan is the fundamental framework for land use and development for the community. It's the opportunity to come together and make strategic decisions about what are our priorities. And I'll use maybe 2 examples, I guess. One is on us right now, which is the East-West connector. And we spent a lot of time in terms of analyzing the East-West connector. We're in the process of designing the East-West connector. We've gone through a planning exercise that increases the intensity. We'll follow up with zoning to get the proper zoning there. But, and this is kind of a mini issue, but if you don't have the adequate water and sewer, it doesn't make any difference what you zone that to. So we've got to make sure that the water and sewer resources are there, the urban design elements, the art and culture is there, the wellness components are all part of that. And if you just kind of think about that for the county at large, it's critically important. We also have, whether it's unwittingly or not, on an incremental basis, rezoned much of our industrial land in Davidson County for other use, whether it's office or residential. That may or may not be good, but ultimately, if we continue doing that, then one day when we wake up and say we do want industrial development in the county, we won't have room for that. So this will provide that opportunity to discuss what's the county's role in the region in terms of industrial development. And there are some opportunities in the county, I think, for some fairly intense mixed-use development if we begin looking at them. It'll also give us an opportunity to look at housing and economic development and make sure that they're integrated components. As we've gone through the community plans, you tend to focus on just the community and not looked at the larger picture of the county at large. And that's the purpose of this, is for the citizens of this county to actually be engaged in defining what they want the future to be.
Thank you. And then about your budget, in terms of you'll be able to, if you were asked to do a 2% reduction, you'll be able to do that?
We can do that. We have proposed that. We will, as I mentioned, need to just readjust it to deal with the general plan situation. But the budget, we have proposed a budget to the finance director that includes a 2% cut.
Okay. And could you talk a little bit about, the news was released this week that there was a grant received to $400,000, I guess, to work on a SoBro plan built around the Music City Center, the Convention Center coming online in 13 months, and the Korean Veterans Boulevard. And what are the issues that will be looked at there, and what do you expect the plan to look like?
I think the community is going to be somewhat surprised, not only by the Convention Center. The Convention Center is obvious. You see that every day. But the completion of the Korean Veterans Boulevard and the roundabout will dramatically change the face of the SoBro area, that area between Lafayette and Broadway. What this plan will do will be an opportunity to look at how development will happen in that intense area, that small area. We're going to look at the traffic flow, see if there's traffic issues. Should streets be realigned to make sure that they're better serving both downtown, the region, and the area, what the streetscape components of that, and then what the land use elements of that. I'll use one example that actually came up this week. We were having a discussion with a developer. They wanted to build a hotel, and what they discovered was that there was a stormwater easement diagonally across the property, which could have, in effect, rendered the property almost undevelopable, or with very little development. We followed up, and this will be done in the whole SoBro area, but we followed up with stormwater. We got everybody together and have discovered that they actually can build over that stormwater easement as long as they do the foundation in a way that straddles the easement, and it will maintain the development potential of that. But I think we come back in 10 years, that area is going to be a high growth area, and it's going to be radically different than what we're seeing today.
Good, good. Rich, any questions?
No. We've had some, I think my staff has been preliminary talking to you about in terms of the changes that we need for the general plan and all that. So we've got some numbers, and we'll communicate that to you next week to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
But we recognize the need to adjust your budget accordingly.
Okay. Greg?
Nothing.
Well, thanks you have had a good and busy year, and I want to reiterate my praise on the redistricting. I thought, having been through it once as law director, I know that how complicated it can be, and it went as smoothly, I think, as it possibly could, and was done very quickly, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate your sort of innovative attitude toward looking at ways to handle the general plan work in a way that I think is uniquely Nashville, having you head it up instead of an outside consultant. Nothing against consultants, but it's better to have somebody with your experience than somebody who's coming in and starting at ground zero. And I also appreciate the willingness of the commission to be supportive of that, and the commission to, I think, bringing Mr. Sloan in will be a good thing. I can vouch for him personally, so I think he'll do well. And I appreciate the commission and Jim, your hard work. Again, it's all members of boards and commissions are serving voluntarily. I told other commissioners I would give you a bonus if I don't pay you, so that would be, I can't do it. So good work, and you play a real important role in the way the city operates. I don't know that all people understand that when the charter was first written, and we're coming up to celebrate the 50th anniversary of it, that really our charter is unique in some ways, because it really is very much acknowledges the importance of planning. And the Planning Commission plays a key role, and that's reflected throughout our original foundational documents as a city. So good work, and thanks for your cooperation. I think next year is going to be really exciting. I think the Fairgrounds report will be interesting to see, and I'm glad that you're handling it that way. I think that's the appropriate way to do it. The Sobro report will be interesting, and then the general plan will be fascinating. There's a lot of exciting things happening in the city, and I think you're a big part of it.
Well, appreciate that, and I appreciate the confidence you and the chairman have in doing the general plan this way, because I'm very excited about it.
Good, thanks.
I want to thank you for your